Okay, so we'll get started with questions. One of the things I wanted to say at the outset here is I don't feel for various reasons that were I listening to this particular webinar today, that I would think that this was the most interesting piece of information, but it actually, I believe, is about the most important piece of information that you could hear, because this is really it's what separates the best attorneys from the worst attorneys. It's what separates people that get the best jobs from those that don't. It's what separates the best recruiters from those who are not the best recruiters. It's really, in my opinion, one of the most important topics that you could ever hear. And in my opinion, just extremely difficult, important. And because it's one of the entire bases of part of my company that works for people. And it's something that I think is incredibly valuable and can change completely the direction of your career and everything that you do. I wanted to spend, though, before I get started with questions, I did want to spend a few minutes just showing you how to find different types of information. What the heck's going on here? Different types of information when you're looking for a position. And I will, let me just close this and this and this, and go into a little bit of a discussion about that and how to find jobs and firms to apply to. Your first stop, it could always be Google, which is a very good place. If you were interested in looking for a certain type of job or firm to apply to, you could say, let me think of a random place where you could be applying to jobs. I don't know, Spokane, Washington. That's pretty random. So you could say Spokane, Washington, corporate attorney. So a lot of those. Again, I don't even know how big Spokane is. I'm just looking at this way. So you go through and you can see all of these. Oh, there we go. All of these different lists of firms. This one to me is very interesting because Google will basically share with you everything that they can find and categorize and that sort of thing. All of these people that are attorneys and have these law offices could be a potential place that you could apply to. So you have all these places right here. Then you have these firms that are on BCG. Then you have these other lists, like from Gravis Law or whatever. This would be a big firm there. You have quite a few different places that, do something here, but you have all these different places that you can potentially apply to. And that's a big deal. It's something that could change the whole course of your search. So a lot of people don't do this. Now, this may not be the best firm that does that type of work, but looking at all these firms would be a very smart thing. Then you can do things like, so once you look at these firms, then you can go Martindale Hubbell, corporate lawyers in Spokane. And it's just one way. In Spokane, Washington. So now you're going to get a list of people in Spokane that do, let's see how they mean business law, how do they even classify this here? Business law. So now you're looking at this site, which is actually, then you look at this, you get 134 5 law firms that do that. Now, I don't even know how big Spokane is, but in my opinion, it's probably not that large of it. Again, I'm just looking at this way. And then you may say to yourself, how do I apply to these firms in Spokane that do this sorts of work? You just go to their website and you would look for who's most likely to be someone that you would hire. So it's Southwell and O'Rourke. So it probably looks like O'Rourke person. So you apply to this guy. That's how you do that. People that do this, by the way, are able to get jobs. This is what works. And you have to go and research the market. The other thing you can do is that you can, if you speak to these people, you can always potentially ask them for referrals if they don't, or other places you could work. So there's just all this stuff that you can do if you're able to research firms and things in a given market. And so this is really what I'm recommending you do for any type of job search. You need to understand where the opportunities are. So you have Martindale, then you would have fine laws. You would have business attorneys in Spokane fine law. So then you suddenly get a list of all their jobs firms. and you get all these firms. And a lot of these, by the way, are going to be different than the ones that you get in Martindale. Now, what something I do want you to see, though, by the way, is very important, is this is a list of people and firms that are paying to be on FindLaw. So FindLaw is not giving you, this is the example of someone controlling access to information. FindLaw is not giving you a complete list of all the business and commercial litigators, right? So when we went to Martindale and did the same search, we got 140 here. And by the way, those 140 Martindale they were probably paying Martindale for. Here, FindLaw is only able to show you this many firms instead of 3 firms, because these are all the people that are paying for it. But then when you go to Google, like we showed you earlier, no one's paying for that. So that's smart. Business lawyers, law firms, and or business law firms, business lawyers in Washington to do this. Then you're going to get all of these different firms here. No one is paying these attorneys and so forth to list on this. Going in, looking at all of these firms, construction, contract law, general commercial. So this would be just a way to go in and look at, no one looks happy here at this law firm. This is just, wow, what a buzzkill. Actually, these guys looks like a nice place to work geographically. But the point is that you need to be able to go out and find as much information as you possibly can when you're doing a job search. The same thing goes, by the way, if you're trying to get clients. If you wanted to find contractors and you were a construction law attorney in your city, you would do the same type of search. This is things that work. So what I'm trying to show you, and again, I'm not selling BCG here. I'm not selling Law Crossing. I'm not selling any company. I'm just saying that you have to be able to go out and find this information and apply to these places. Now, these two guys, McCulmer Law, they're having a lot of fun. They're doing real estate, and JD Bristol. These guys are doing some real estate and actually doing a lot of different things. I can guarantee you, if you send JD Bristol an email saying you love to work with him, you want to be a construction lawyer or something like that, but he's not getting a lot of emails from people trying to do that. He's also probably, if he's in Spokane, Washington, I don't know if Spokane, Washington is liberal or conservative, but he's probably also not getting a lot of, Federal Society is a very kind of conservative organization. He's probably not getting a lot of emails from people that say they're Republican and so forth on their resume. And again, I'm just telling you, if you were to apply to this place and have a background, so some people may be very liberal and you can put that on your resume. So if you just think about how you're applying to places, you'll often do much better than if you're not. So that's just a piece of advice that I would recommend, that when you're trying to apply to firms, you do as much possible research as you can. You look at client law. Another good source is this is Chambers law ranking. You should have law firm rankings. So these are going to be the biggest law firms here. So if you want to apply to the largest law firms, that's up to you. But please always do this. But you just have to recognize that this is also controlling access to information. So you try to look at the best law firms in Alabama, they may not even have me. Like, maybe just here, I'm in banking. Okay. Banking and finance. Like, they've got how many firms? They found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 law. Well, and then some of these smaller ones that aren't ranked. So the point is that you need to be doing research, and you should be researching anything in your practice area, everything you possibly can find if you're doing a job search. And the same goes for clients. So you could say, I want to know about banks if you wanted to represent banks, or how about this? Contractors in Spokane. Well, or how about this? Tuscaloosa. I don't even know how to spell it. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Not even aware of where that place is, but you have all these places, and some of them are that you could apply to if you could apply to if you wanted to work in-house in Tuscaloosa, that you could apply to or send emails to or try to contact if you wanted to develop clients. So what I'm trying to show you is just a way of thinking about your career and your life and that uses information instead of you using this, because this is what people do. They think, oh, I will apply to all of the banking and finance law firms in Alabama. Great. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. You're going to only see 8 firms if you go to Chambers and Partners. You could do the same search. You could do the same search on FindLand. I'm sorry to see find law Tuscaloosa, Alabama again. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So we'll try that. So best law firms in Tuscaloosa. So they're only going to show you, there you go, one attorney, and all he does is criminal defense. If you did that same search, law firms, business law firms, you did the search for the business law firms, then you're going to get, look at that. How awesome is that? So this is from hg.org. You're going to get all these firms. And this is another site. You would use hg.org. So you're getting all these law firms. So the point is that there's so much information out there you're probably not using that you need to access. And again, hard again, you only found 4 law firms in the entire state of Alabama when you were using FindLaw, you found 1. And then Chambers, you found 4. But here, we've actually found law firms, and look, they're making you use them or something. So, because they're trying to, the sites, it's what's controlling access to information. It's probably making you do something in order to, but this is hard again, and small law firm. So had you used whatever, this is actually a personal injury firm, but the point is that you need to use all of these different sites to try to find different places where you can work. So this is Hubbard and Maheen, and it's so much fun doing this, by the way, because learning about all of the opportunities out there is just a game changer, because you can work anywhere. You can work in Tuscaloosa. Look at this. I don't even know it's in Tuscaloosa. I've just heard the name somewhere. I don't know where that is, but this is an example of a small law firm in Tuscaloosa that you could potentially use. Now, this is not a good website. They probably don't need one because they're one of the only law firms there, but you could W. Marcus Brakefield. Yeah, again, so these kind of people are great potential places to I don't know why, to see his birth. Yeah, that's most of the time people keep that stuff private. But the point is, I hate to keep coming back to this, but you have FindLaw, you Google, which is the best. Then you have hc.org. Then you have Martindale. But you have all these different websites that you can use to search for jobs. Then you have, I talked to you about Chambers. So you have Chambers. Then you have, and again, I could keep going, but then you also have U.S. News and World Report, law firm rankings, news. So then you have U.S. News, which ranks all these law firms. So all these incredible number of sources of law firms, other information that you can find, and you have this. And then how about this? Data brokers or law firms. So you could find high quality data, lead database, data broker. What are these people giving? These people are giving you can buy data from them, and you can, it's endless. It's endless how many different types of things you can find. And then not only that, then you can do things like you could just go do a deep dive in all this. You could buy things from data brokers that they'll have law firms and things that no one knows about. And there's so many things you can find that will give you access to information that it's crazy. And finding all of this information is important. And then I'll make a couple more suggestions before I move on. But using FindLaw, you can see here, it's limited because they're controlling access to information. Google is not necessarily controlling access to information. They're actually trying to help you find information. So this is actually a great source of information. If you go, again, Spokane law firms, I just want you to see this, law firms, they're going to do everything they can to show you every freaking firm that they can find that does this work. So Google is actually very good for finding firms. Then you have this hc.org, which is pretty good. It's better than FindLaw, right? So they're still controlling access to information. Then you have Martindale. They're pretty good, but they're still controlling. They're showing you the firms and people that are paying to be there. Then you have Chambers. They're controlling access to information because they're ranking. Then you have U.S. News. They're controlling access to information because they're only showing you firms they like. Then you have data brokers that are going out there and finding everything they possibly can. Everywhere you turn, there's people that are controlling access to information and not. And the only point I want to make to you is that you need to, if you want to do an effective job search, there is no way that you can only look at jobs on Indeed or LinkedIn or use a recruiter, including, by the way, again, I'm not, but any recruiter, including myself. You should know everything you can out there. And no one, by the way, is going to be able to tell you that. Think about how sophisticated this is, by the way, too. So if you go to some recruiter that's working at home and works alone, or if you go to some recruiting firm with 10 recruiters, do you possibly think that they're going to do all this research? Do you really believe that they're going to go and compare all these different things and try to do this research? We do it, but we're imperfect. You can sometimes, if you're trying to target something and you're spending hours on Google and reading things, you're going to find a lot more things that we may be able to. And it's not because we don't know what we're doing. It's because there's so much freaking information out there that it's impossible. Oh, then you have Vault Law Rankings. So Vault Law Rankings. There's just so many people out there that are giving you access to different types of information. And the final point I want to make, just because this is important, but your law school, any law school you go to is not doing all this information. Go to their website and see what they're showing you. These are just law firms, by the way. So I'm showing you law firms, but then you would have a list of cities in Washington State. I'm just showing you something here. Washington State, Wikipedia. Look at this. So you go to Wikipedia and they're giving you a list of all the cities in some place like Washington State, places where you possibly could work, right? So all of this data, you can sort it, which is fun. So you can look at the smallest to the largest. And so you have Seattle, Spokane. Actually, look at that. It's 208,000. So I was actually right. It's a good area. I've never been there. But then you start getting into all these different things, Vancouver, Yakima, like all of these different areas, cities and so forth in Washington State. So if I was a freaking attorney trying to get a job in Washington State, what I would do, just tell me what you would do. If you really want to work in Washington State, you're admitted to the bar, you have to do the research. Now, you don't have to work in the whole state, but you could break it down by counties because which county you want to work in. So you could look at all of the counties and they wanted to work in and then try to find jobs there. But going through all of this information, there's going to be law firms in towns that have as few as 10,000 people or even less. So another thing that's smart too, by the way, I'm just telling you how to be smart in your job search. You apply to firms that are in a lot of these smaller markets. So say you apply to firms that are in DuPont, which has 10,000 people, and you can certainly find firms and places in DuPont. So you can say law firms in DuPont. Sorry, give me a second. Law firms in DuPont, Washington State, right? So we're just looking at the small little town. Here you go. You've got a few sponsored. Look, sponsored. That means these people are paid to be on Google. And then you get down here and you get super lawyers. And then you get Fine Law, Justia, more Fine Law, more Martindale, more HG.org. And let me explain something to you that would blow your mind. You can do this for every single town in Washington. Right? So you're going to get tens of thousands, if not more, law firms and places you can work. Not only that, but you could even break this down and say something along the lines of prosecutor jobs. You could look at all of the cities in Washington. So here we've got Everett, Washington, and you would have Everett, Washington. I'm just trying to give you an example. This would be if you want to do government job. You get Everett, Washington, careers, something like along those lines. So then you would have government jobs here, job opportunities, then city of Everett, Washington, employment opportunities. Now, I'm just showing you here how this works. I'm trying to show you how people get jobs in different areas. But if you wanted to work in Everett, Washington, you might even be able to find attorney jobs here. And I'm not saying you're going to, but if you do this with enough towns, I guarantee that you will find positions. A lot of these will have jobs for prosecutors and things like that. What I'm trying to show you is just you need to, if you're really trying to get a job and you're serious about it, you need to go in and really dig deep and look at all these cities. What I'm trying to explain to you, and I hope this could change the course of your career in life, is if you are looking for positions in any town or any market, you could break it down by county and apply to all those places. you would be dumb. And again, I'm not saying you're dumb, but if you don't follow this advice, you will have a difficulty of finding positions because hardly anyone is doing this. No one is taking a look and saying, I want to work in Washington. I want to do this where I want to work. I'm going to choose all these counties. I'm going to start with the most populous down to least populous. Now, I want to make a couple other points to you, and then I'm going to move on because I just can't even emphasize how important this is. If you are applying to firms in Seattle and you don't think you have a great background, first of all, no one is going and doing research and applying to every firm in Seattle. So that's off the table. So you can still get plenty of jobs in Seattle. But what happens is when you start looking at smaller markets, you start going and looking at, you don't have to look at something with 18,000, but if you were to look at a city with 18,000 in a county that's not like near Seattle or something, then no one is applying to these. You would do research and you would say law firms and I hope everyone's following me, but I've been doing this my whole career. So I just want to show you how it works. If you did Ellsworth, Washington law firms, you go here and you get the Kirkman Law Office. You get all these different law firms in the city. Remember here, we looked at this. The city is only 18,000 people and there are law firms and work there. This is Berg, Ellsberg, any website, any place that you try to work in the country, you can, and you can break down and find jobs there. This is all, by the way, what people think in business do. This is what the best way to possibly you can to get a position. It's what the most important thing you can do. So I'll go to questions now. Oh, wow. So I hope everyone was seeing the right screen during the presentation. I'm assuming they were. Someone said they weren't seeing it. Okay. You see. Okay. So I guess there are no questions. There's still a lot of people on those calls, several hundred people are paying attention, but if you don't have questions, that's fine. The final thing I would just say to everyone is you do need to use every source of research you possibly can. You need to look at large markets, small markets, break things down and do the most work you can to find jobs. Because if you don't, then you're not going to find it. And there are really quite a few, and apologies, it looks like people aren't receiving this. Quite a few jobs normally would not see if you were having if you're having a difficult time finding jobs. The final thing I want to say is we're looking here at Washington State. You could either look at very remote places. You could look at list of cities and, places where people wouldn't go. I'm just showing you an example, but Idaho, Wikipedia, so you can look at this. So there's all of these cities in Idaho where you could possibly work. I've never even heard of Nampa, Idaho, but I guarantee you there's a ton of firms there. You can also see what's interesting is the population increase and all this. Look at how many people the population increases are. You could work there. My point to everyone here is I don't want anyone to ever get discouraged by the fact that they think there's no jobs or there's no place to apply. You need to use the entire market and go after the entire market into wherever you want to work. I'll even get even more granular right now since so many people are watching this. I think this is interesting. I'm glad, but you could look at things like our reciprocity beats research. Here's an article about, it's not the right one. Let's see, part of reciprocity. And I just want to show you what your peers are doing. Comprehensive, what is bar reciprocity? Look at this. So I want everyone to see how important it is you have an understanding of what your peers are doing. Right here, this particular article has gotten, I just want you to see these incredible numbers. Whoops, what's that? Anyway, this particular article has got 576,000 views, meaning 576,000 people have searched for this information. 576,000 people have presumably read this. And why is that? Because other attorneys, yourself included, are smart. Like when they're doing a job search, they're not just interested in where they can work based on wanting to work. Someone doesn't say, I will only work in Lexington, Kentucky. People in Lexington, Kentucky are saying, hey, I want to work in Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Nebraska, South Dakota. And they're going where they can find a job. So they may not find the job they want in Lexington. Now, let me tell you what's insane. This is just what people do, but it's absolutely crazy. If you were living in Lexington, Kentucky and concluded based on the jobs you were seeing on Indeed or something, that there were no jobs in Lexington. You said, oh my God, I've given up. There's no jobs. You could look at Law Crossing and find probably more jobs, but you wouldn't find every job. So if you give up and you only want to work in Lexington, Kentucky, and you think there's no jobs on Law Crossing, there's no jobs on Indeed, there's no jobs on LinkedIn, I've applied everywhere, therefore I need to go and look at all these different states. The first thing you would do, by the way, this is just the smart thing, you would say, Lexington, Kentucky, or no, you would just say, what would you say? Kentucky cities, and just showing you an example. Cities, Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, yeah, this, and then you would see all the list of these claims, and then you'd say, you go down this, and what the hell's going on here? And so let's just go down here. We'll look at Lexington. So Lexington, and again, I'm just making these up as I go along, but Lexington is in, let me just see here, Lexington, here we go. Lexington. So this is a big city, but you look at this, and then this is the Fayette, is the county. So if you were in Lexington, Kentucky, you would probably want to look at all of the jobs or all of the law firms. If you really didn't think you'd get a job at a law firm, you would say law firms, and then county versus Kentucky, right? Kentucky. And all of a sudden, Fayette County, Lexington, Kentucky, you get, oh, look, business law, you can break it down. This is the firm it's got for business law. I guarantee you there's more than that. But then you can look at, you're getting, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, these are sponsored results. Again, this is an example of someone controlling access to information. So you do this search on Google and you want to see something. And so what they're doing first is they're showing you lawyers that are paying to be at the top, right? So they're controlling access to information, which is very important. And then if you go down here, then you're seeing more law firms that are actually in the list here. This is actually an interesting webinar. A lot of people are interested because the number of people that have been on the 15 minutes that are on this webinar is actually increasing. So I don't know why that is, and people must telling other people about it or something. But I guess this is what I do for a living, so it doesn't seem as interesting to me probably as other people. But I'm just going through this to show you how things work. This will, if you look at all the law firms in Lexington, Kentucky, you're probably going to get pages and pages, or in the same county that Lexington is in. Then you could do counties around Lexington, around county, and so forth. So my point is that everybody should never, by any stretch of imagination, when you're doing a job search, oh, look at this, that's cool. Number one, best law firms in Lexington, right after, I like that for BCG. But the point is you never want to lose sight of the fact that there's plenty of places you can apply it to. And look at these search results. They just keep going. They just keep going. There's just so many places you can work. And so you should never lose track of that. You should never give up. No one should give up on their search. And if you're looking for a job, no one should, because there are so many freaking places that you can work. It's unbelievable. It just blows the mind that how many places there are. You break things down by city. But the final thing I wanted to show, and I apologize, I got off on a tangent. So we were looking at these bar reciprocity places. So places, other cities and other states you can work at once you pass the bar. And there are some limitations, like you can only work in California if you have the bar, so you have to take the bar there. You can only work in Florida if you have the bar, so you have to take the bar there. You can only, after a certain number of years you've been practicing, you can waive in New York, but you can't do it before then. So there's Delaware is another one. But my point to you is that even if you think you're limited by, and again, I just want to stress, look at this, 576,000 people have read this. This is what your peers are doing. They're reading articles about like this in other places they can work. So if you're sitting there in Columbus, Ohio, I think you're having a hard time getting a job, you can look at all the firms in the same county. You can look at all the firms in the state. There's going to be tens of thousands. Or you can also do something really smart and look at states where you can waive into. So instead of saying my market is, I just want you to watch this. My market is only the state where I'm working. You can go and say, I'll just show you this. It's pretty freaking cool. A list of US states. You can go and say, and I'm trying to give people here hope. I want you to the reason I'm spending so much time on all this is I want you to understand like how much freaking opportunity there is out there. It's ridiculous. It's so freaking crazy, like how much opportunity there is and how few people are understanding like how this freaking thing works. So you're admitted to one state, so not admitted to California. So you're SOL unless you take this ridiculous bar exam. You're also going to be SOL if you try to work in Florida, you don't have the bar exam. Some other states, there's going to be things, but you could build a list of all of these states where you can wade into and apply to jobs. Nevada might be better, but the point is that once you understand the list of places, so instead of looking at one state, once you understand where you can wade in and all that stuff, bar reciprocity, you can look at jobs in 45 states or whatever it is. So why wouldn't you possibly want to look at jobs in 45 states? You'd have to be crazy not to do that if you really want to get a job. People move for jobs all the time. If you're in the military, you move for jobs all the time. If you are a doctor, you may get a job in another state or a resident. People move for jobs all the time. Why shouldn't you? But the point is that if you're a freaking law student, you're looking for jobs and you're getting one, you should look at other states. If you want to look for jobs in Alabama, you shouldn't just look at the big cities like everyone else is. You can look at a list of cities in Alabama. See here, a list of cities. Just want to show you a list of cities. So then you get this list right here. All these freaking places you can look for jobs. Now, the same thing goes. This is just ridiculous. Come on. Just completely insane. So if you want to, and I don't know why this one isn't listing cities the way our previous one was, but you get a list of cities that you can apply to. Like right here, you get all these cities in Alabama. Then in addition to all of these cities in Alabama, then you search buying law firms, Alabama. You can search chambers. You're not going to get a lot. You search Google for firms. So you search BCG list, by the way, smaller too. I'm promoting them. You search, what else do we talk about? hg.org for firms. You search Vault. You search US News. You search Martindale for firms in these areas. And then you develop a comprehensive list. You want to work in York, Alabama. You do that you do a search for Fine Law Chambers, Google, BCG, Vault, US News, Martindale. I don't even know. It probably showed some other ones. Let's see what's going on here. Chambers, hg.org. Oh, Fine Law. What was this other one? This is just a list. But you search all of the sites that you can find. Or you might even have super lawyers. I don't know. There's super lawyers. Whatever the lists are, you try to search for candidates on them. And you do whatever you can for law firms and you build a huge list. And so again, this is just for York, Alabama. Imagine if you did the same thing for these hundreds of areas if you wanted to work in one of these cities. And my point to you is, I guess it's a very simple point, but the point is that there are law firms crawling out of the walls. They're just everywhere. There's tons of them. And the idea that you couldn't get a job in any city or state, to me, is insane. This is what people think. They think, oh, the market's terrible. It's absolutely 182 pages of these law firms. It's just bananas how many places you can possibly work. I can't even begin to fathom it. The other thing I'll just tell you straight out is you can search for companies in these areas and suddenly say you want to work in house. You could do that. You could search for government offices in these areas and say you want to work there and apply to them. A lot of these places will have government jobs. We talked about earlier, and I just continue to do this because the number of people in this webinar for some reason is increasing, which is rare at this point in time. But if you want to look at, say, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, City Hall, what's a City Hall? It's what this City Hall. Again, I'm using the city, but I never really don't know much about. So City of Tuscaloosa. So you look at here, and you can do this, by the way, for every city in your state if you want to work somewhere. So now we're going to Tuscaloosa, and we're going to business, city services, Tuscaloosa, report a job, travel reporting, citations. Let's see, menu. So we have calendars, police, start a business, things to do, work with us. So these are jobs. They're looking for motivated individuals. And I may have shown this site earlier in the thing, but you have city venues, engineer, grants, for worker, an operator, firefighter, mechanic. I think I already looked at this particular site with everyone, but in most cases, park ranger, police, project manager, revenue officer, safety director. But if you look at, most cities, and you were to do this with cities, for example, I don't know, let's slip down to, give me 1 second here. And I'm just showing you this so you can see some larger cities. But all of these cities, by the way, will have employment opportunities in Burma. This is just an example of one city in one state. So for whatever reason, this particular firm does not host this particular, it doesn't look like this for whatever reason. These people are not hiring at the moment. Let's see here. Person or the hell says no, not in 1 second. Job Quest, maybe they have jobs Quest, whatever the hell that is. Never even heard of that. Oh, merit systems. These are Job Quest. Oh, I see. So all these cities and they've gotten together and posted all their jobs in one place in Alabama. So you would have. I'm just showing everyone how to look for jobs and the way to do it in different cities, public meetings, personnel. For whatever reason, it doesn't look like they're hiring either. I don't know if I'm right, but here we go. 63 results. Workers' product accountant, government accountant, finance director, building, writer, web developer, social worker, public health. So it doesn't look like they're hiring any attorneys unless I've missed any, and I can look for them. But a lot of times, high number of times, you're going to find positions. Attorney, maybe I missed something. I'll take a dish. No, lawyer. Was a prosecutor. So nothing. But the point is that you can look at firms and you can look for firms in jobs in every city and every county, wherever you're trying to work in the country. And this will drastically increase the odds that you can get a job anywhere. So you have this many options. I guess my final point here is I'll say, instead of looking at 45 states, if you have our reciprocity, which you can figure out by looking online, you have our reciprocity. Instead of looking in one city where you want to work, you can look at every city. You can look at more cities. You can look at every city. Instead of looking at, every city. Instead of looking at job sites, you can research places to work. And I showed you all of these things. So again, just talking about these. And then I think I'll wrap this up. I know that there's not a lot of questions, but I think people at this point get the idea that the market, the potential number of places you can apply is absolutely ridiculous. There are more people, more jobs, more potential places to apply than you can even imagine. And it's absolutely insane. No one should think that they're limited by any stretch of the imagination in your job search. You can find any potential job, any potential place you want to work. You can apply to those places. Another thing would be instead of emailing a resume, you can mail it. Instead of waiting to hear, all these different things you can do to increase the number of places you get jobs. And that's my only goal for everyone here is I want you to get a position. I realize that most people will not be able to get positions using Indeed or whatever it is. And even if you do, you'll often be limited because, and I'll just explain that to you, you will get jobs that are often beneath your skill set. Because if you're applying to jobs that are at your skill set or above, when a job is advertised, they're going to get a ton of applications and you're never going to stick out. Also, when you apply to jobs on job sites, and that includes my job site, Wall Crossing, you will get jobs that may have been posted for 30, 60, 90 days, where the employer just has forgotten to take them down, or employers often hire from the first people that apply to jobs. And so what does that mean? That means that if you're an employer, if I open my email and I get 30 applications the first 2 days, I'm going to look at like those. And then I'm going to see like when I get past to 20, I'm going to see a couple of people I want to interview. And then maybe I'll go 25 and third, but I just don't want to get involved in checking 100 or 200 that come because I don't have time. I don't have 2 hours to open all these resumes and print them. I just don't. So I will hire from the first people. Now I'm not saying that I do that because I don't want to look like a bad person, but this is what almost all HR people do. that not all of them, some of them have applicant tracking systems and so forth that are very sophisticated, but a lot of them do. You would too. And so you're often not going to get a job if you apply in job sites. Your odds are bad because you're competing with a lot of people. You only get the best jobs you get are when you apply to places that aren't receiving a lot of applications. And you do that by targeting and sending your resume to law firms. I talk about law firms, but you could do it with government offices, whatever. You do that by sending that cold, preferably mailing it to firms. And then you don't just do it in the city you're in. You could do it in your county, or you could do it in other cities outside your county and just target them all. And you research those firms on FindLaw, Chambers, BCG, all these different things. You research them, and then you find and you apply to them, and you get jobs. This thing works. It doesn't matter where you went to law school. It doesn't matter what anybody is telling you. It doesn't matter if you're employed or unemployed. It doesn't even matter if you're not admitted to the bar yet and you've freaking taken it 5 times. It doesn't matter, which is, I'm telling you, law firms and people need people to work for them. Every law firm needs people. People are flattered when they get an application. Small law firms, small law firms, middle-sized law firms that people don't know about in areas of the country they don't know about. So instead of looking at one state, you can look at 45 states. That's perfectly up to you. You could, if you're admitted to one state, you can apply to 45 states. If you're admitted to one state and you want to stay in that state, you can apply to every city in that state. And there'll be hundreds. It's insane. 30 categories. What is this? It's like I said, it was 450 results of cities in Alabama. So instead of looking at one city, you look at multiple cities. Instead of looking at a job site, you research places to work and use this information, right? And you can do that yourself, piece of information. And then instead of mailing your resume, you can email and you can mail it. Why do I say that? Because imagine if you got a letter to your house that said, hey, I'm an experienced nanny. And if you ever need someone to take care of your child, and say you have children, I would love to talk to you. Here's my resume. Let me know. And if you're sitting there and you're like, whenever 20% of the country or homes that have a new child, what would you do? You might think the person's a creep, but most people would take that very seriously if they think they can use a nanny and hire the person. That's the kind of thing that hardly anyone does. And that's the kind of thing that will drastically change your career and your life. If you start doing that, you mail it. And instead of using one source of firms, which is about access to information. So instead of using one source of the information about where you use numerous ones. That's how that works. So you use FindLaw, Chambers, Google, like all these different things to find them. And remember, I just want you to see these people, and the whole point of this webinar is controlling access to information, controls access to info. So controls access to info. All these people do. So FindLaw does. Only people that pay can play. So FindLaw, this FindLaw does. Then Chambers does. Then Google by showing sponsored results first. Showing sponsored first. So then BCG lists do by showing only best firms. And then HG.org does to some extent. I'm not exactly sure how it does it. And Ball does, and US News does, and Martindale, and Super. So all of these people and things are controlling access to information. So the only way that you can possibly find a position is to try to work around all this and do whatever you can to apply. What am I doing? Do whatever you possibly can to go around all these. You look at Google, to go look at sponsored jobs, look at BCG lists to only sponsored jobs. And the biggest, I'm going to tell you this, the biggest violation, and this is I should have said, I could say recruiters, whatever. I don't want to attack career services offices or anything, because I know a lot of career service offices call me and hire me. The point is that anyone that's telling you where to apply, is telling you where to apply, and what's it called? Apply is controlling access to it. So that's system. So that's just another. So all these people are trying to control access to information, and it's very serious because you're looking for a job and you're trying to figure out where to apply, but you have no idea because everything is being, so the one I like best for finding jobs, I don't think there's probably ever been a better source, is something like Google. They're going to control access to information. You can, but they're also going to show you the best things they can find. Also, to show you, they're also going to show you all the results. What's crazy is pays. People are paying. I don't think Chamber's paying. PhD, I don't know. You get paid. So you get paid. Then you have supervisors like paid. Just ensure it's sued here. But all these things are controlling access to information. Your objective is to run around all this and to find firms and places that you can apply to that are controlling access to whatever, wherever you want to apply. And other sources would be your work controlling access to information. If you don't know, all of these different people are groups are controlling access to information. So information means who's hiring, who you can work for, where the best places to work. Their access would be cities you're applying to, like that knowledge. The job sites are and that's the worst. Paid job sites, these are absolutely worst, which are going to be, Indeed, all of these sites where people need to pay post jobs are really, and that's where most people are getting killed. They're relying on these sites that are filtering, only showing employers the best applicants. And it's crazy because the idea is they're looking for a, litigation job in New York City. You may get 500 plus applications. What are your odds of being the best applicant? It's crazy. It's just crazy. Some of the best applicants require, some of the jobs may require different types of skills and so forth, but it's just, every job can get 500 applicants and pay $30,000 a year. I've seen jobs for attorneys paying $40,000. And obviously, if these 500 applicants knew that, but the point is that anytime you get into what's that called, the saturated market, meaning a market where everyone's trying to work, your odds of getting a position actually go down, because one job in New York City can get hundreds of applicants because there's so many people trying to get jobs there. Whereas a job in, let's take a look at some of these cities in Alabama, Dothan, Alabama, one job in Dothan, Alabama. I'm just giving you Dothan, Alabama, get 10, 2 hours. Obviously, when you try to look at a saturated market, it's going to be much more difficult for you to get a job. But another thing is, this is just a final thing I do pop off this webinar. I just don't understand why there were people out here. Glad that more people are getting on this, and it's a couple hours in, but there's 5,000 law firms. It was probably more than that. 7,500 law firms in New York City. I don't know what the number is, but it's something like that, maybe more. And say there's 50 with your practice area. And then you get down, you break that down, there's 850 in your practice area. And if it was personal injury, there might be 3,000, I don't know. But 850 the practice area. On that 850, there's 30 with jobs, maybe. I don't know what the number, with job openings. And out of that 30 with job openings, there's 30 with job openings. That still leaves 820 firms that you applied to, firms without job openings. And out of 820 firms, you might have, you might have 300 that interview higher, the right person comes in. I just want everyone to understand how this works. And hope this makes sense. And I will hopefully make better sense in a moment. Let's say you want to work in New York City, okay? And say your practice area is something like, literally, there might be 850 firms that do residential real estate transactions. You need an attorney in New York to do residential real estate transactions, buy a house or something. So maybe there's 850 firms that do them. So you look online and you do a search, and you go to Indeed, LinkedIn, Law Crossing, or however you're searching for a job. And out of those 850 firms, maybe there's 30 with job openings. I would actually venture to tell you it's probably more like 10 to 30 tops. That's me. But so 30 with job openings, that means you have, I'm just going to say residential real estate. 850 with their price sale, let's say, this is just residential real estate transactions. And that number might be higher or lower transactions. You have 850 in your practice areas doing residential real estate transactions. And this is very important. I want everyone to understand what I'm talking about here, because this is going to change the course of your career and your life if you understand this. So 7,500 law firms in New York City, which you will only find, by the way, okay? You will only find them if you understand how to use to go onto a site like FindLaw, Chambers, but more importantly, Google, which is the best possible source of information, always will be. It's the freaking, maybe not always, but it's got the best PhDs, been doing it for years, combs every freaking law firm website out there and categorize it. Then you can look at BCG list, HCA.org, whatever, all these different sources of information. But honestly, and then you could look at job sites. Maybe there's a few firms that are advertising on there, just on the website. So you're looking for, there's 856 firms in New York City that do residential real estate transactions. Okay. And out of that, well, anyway, so 10 to 30 of these may have job openings. I would say it's probably far fewer. Then there's 8 firms without job openings. So out of those 850 firms, there's 820 without job openings. If you were to send, so say you send your resume to whoever looks like the highest ranking person in the firm, whatever firm this is, doing residential real estate transactions, person in the firm doing this work, doing residential real estate transactions, and maybe 300 of these. No, I could even go lower if you want. I could go 50 to 300, or maybe even 20. I don't care. But the point is that these people will hire people if they have the work. Will hire people if they have the work, because they can make money if they have the work. So I'm just want you to understand. So some guy that's sitting there, woman that's sitting there doing residential real estate transactions and doesn't particularly like doing the drudgery of doing all the work for a closing. She would rather sit in the closing and have people sign the documents. The associate does, whatever. But these law firms will hire people if they come along to do the work. And so I'm just telling you, you have to understand like how all this works. And again, look at every state, look at every city that you could work in the state. You could break it down by county, look at every job site, email your resume, mail your resume, and look at all these different sources of jobs. And that's really all I got to say about this topic. And so you can understand that. But you need to, everybody, if you are looking for a job, you need to do this comprehensive search. And again, I saw a woman this morning, I talked to her, and it was freaking amazing. She had quit a law firm that she was working in Delaware as a bankruptcy attorney. Then she went out and emailed firms all around the country that in areas that she believed were where they were small law firms that represented large clients. And she took a look at their website to figure it out or did sophisticated work. She emailed law firms, people that were in these law firms, and said, hey, I'm a Delaware attorney. I would love to do some work for you. Would you possibly consider hiring me as your attorney? Meaning she was going to these law firms as an attorney saying, I'll charge you $350 an hour for the work. You can charge your clients whatever. And all of a sudden, this woman has got this third-year attorney or something that's got like this $300,000 or $400,000 job, basically working for all these law firms, billing 1,000 hours a year at $350. And 1,000 hours is half the time that you would be working in a law firm. So I'm just telling you the power of all this stuff. When you understand how to do research, when you understand how to market yourself, you understand how to find, you can do this to generate business. You can use this to get a job. You can use this to whatever. And this particular philosophy that I've developed is having worked for an attorney that never lost a case, that was behind the lines and drawing a lot of attention, but people with a lot of money to spend on attorneys knew who he was. So that's really all I have today. This webinar, by the way, is recorded. It will go live on our website within probably like the next week or so. So you can watch this and see all this stuff that I've talked about today. But I just want to emphasize to everyone, no matter what stage of your career you are in, you can use this if you're 30 years of experience and you're 40 years and you're in the mid-60s and you want to get a job in a city, or you want to get business by contacting companies that do the kind of work you want to do in a city, by going out and finding jobs if you're an unemployed attorney in your city or another state. All of this is just, it works. And this is the most powerful way to improve your career, to get jobs, and to really to do whatever, to get business, to get jobs, to improve your career. And this is something anyone can do. No one is holding you back. You are completely in control of your career and your life, so if you understand this. And you should not allow anyone, whether it's chambers or a job site or a recruiting firm, or anyone to hold you back, because your options in the legal career, in your legal career, are just freaking off the charts. You have so many freaking places you can work and get jobs that the better you understand that, the better you will do. So thanks everyone for being in this webinar. This is really stuff that will help you if you understand it. And hopefully we'll have a better topic next week. Even this one, I apologize, this webinar actually had a bad name. It should have had a better name. So probably would have gotten a lot more people here if we'd done that, but I definitely appreciate everyone being here, and thank you.